Is the Gaza conflict similar to earlier conflicts in the Middle East? Today, we will have to deal with this difficult matter. Join us for a discussion on this topic and attempt to understand the subtleties of this ongoing fight. Conflict in the Middle East. The Middle East widely experiences elevated levels of strain and strife. Resolving difficult problems in the region is crucial for achieving long-term peace. Middle Eastern nations fight on multiple fronts, within their borders, with neighboring nations, and globally. A brief recent history of the Middle East. The Middle East is an area of various states with a wide range of ethnic and cultural backgrounds. Generally, the countries exhibit high levels of authoritarianism and relatively low levels of economic liberalization. In the Middle East, Arabic is the most commonly spoken language, and Islam is the most generally followed religion. The Second World War popularized the term Middle East. The organization comprises non-Arab nations such as Iran, Israel, Egypt, and Turkey, along with former Arab states of West Asia and North Africa that were once part of the Arab League. The Arab League makes decisions regarding member states. The Ottoman Empire once included a large portion of the contemporary Middle East, which the Allies divided after the war in response to Arab nationalism. Because of tribal and religious identities, conflict in the area has existed since before these events. Turkey annexed the majority of the Ottoman Empire. Russia and Lebanon received Armenian provinces. France controlled most of Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, and Syria. Britain received control of Iraq, Egypt, Palestine, Jordan, southern Yemen, and the rest of Syria. This took place before the mid-1960s Sykes-Picot Agreement, which resulted in independence. Historical migrations between Egypt and other Middle Eastern nations have included Egypt in the Middle East, despite its location in North Africa. Some consider the Greater Middle East, which includes Israel and portions of Central Asia, to encompass the MENA, Middle East and North Africa region. Many discussions about the Middle East often overlook Turkey, which is not commonly considered a MENA area. Israel argues with the UN about the quantity of cement that can be supplied to Gaza for rehabilitation, while the dead are being buried. That's not how this conflict is, though. Not merely because of the sheer number of people killed, mostly Israeli citizens, by Hamas on October 7th, nor because of Israel's mighty vengeance, as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu put it, which has resulted in the murder of several Palestinian civilians. This fight takes place when the fault lines dividing the Middle East are rumbling, which sets it apart from the others. For at least 20 years, the most significant rift in the region's fractured geopolitical landscape has divided Iran's friends and supporters from those of the U.S. Iran's network, also known as the Axis of Resistance, comprises Iranian-trained and armed Iraqi militias, the Ayyad regime in Syria, the Houthis in Yemen, and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Additionally, Iranians have supported Islamic Jihad and Hamas in Gaza. Iran is also becoming closer to China and Russia. Russia's war strategy in Ukraine now heavily relies on Iran. China is one of the largest buyers of Iranian oil. As the Gaza war drags on, Israel kills more Palestinian civilians and destroys tens of thousands of homes, increasing the likelihood of hostilities between the two groups. The Israeli-Lebanese border is becoming increasingly heated. Hezbollah and Israel are opposed to going to war. But as they punch each other harder and harder, the likelihood of an uncontrollable escalation increases. The Houthis in Yemen have targeted Israel with rockets and drones. So far, all of the U.S. Navy vessels in the Red Sea or Israeli air defenses have been shot down. Militants backed by Iran targeted American installations in Iraq. At several of their facilities in Syria, the U.S. reacted. Once more, all parties are making an effort to prevent escalation, but controlling the rate of military action is never easy. Egypt, Jordan, Israel, and the Gulf oil states support the U.S. Even though President Joe Biden is disturbed by Israel's mass murder of Palestinian people, the United States still provides Israel with significant support. The U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, has publicly declared that too many Palestinian civilians are dying. The Arab allies of the United States have unitedly denounced Israel's conduct and called for a ceasefire. It reminds me of Israel's victory over the Arabs in the 1948 Independence War, when hundreds of thousands of Palestinians left their homes in northern Gaza and headed south along the main road. The Israelis forced over 700,000 Palestinians to flee or leave their homes at gunpoint, an incident known as al-Nakba, or the tragedy. The majority of people living in the Gaza Strip are the offspring of refugees who fled in 1948. The danger of a second Nakba by some extreme Jewish nationalists backing Benjamin Netanyahu's administration has concerned American Arab states, especially Jordan and Egypt. To cope with Hamas, one minister in Netanyahu's government even entertained the idea of dropping a nuclear weapon on Gaza. Despite facing criticism, he remained in his position. While some may write all of this off as the ramblings of a fringe group, Jordan and Egypt take this seriously. Not Israel's vast and secret arsenal of nuclear weapons, but the threat of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians being driven across its borders. Senior Western diplomats, describing the end of the war and its aftermath as difficult and messy, have spoken to the BBC on behalf of countries that are fierce supporters of Israel's partners. The only way through will be rebuilding a political horizon for Palestinians, declared one of them. Abandoning the two-state solution, which aimed for an independent Palestine alongside Israel, has reduced it to a mere catchphrase. Reviving it is an ambitious idea and could be the best course of action available, possibly as part of a larger agreement between Israel and the Arabs. It will be incredibly challenging to deliver, though, amid the current atmosphere of grief, anxiety, and hatred. Under the current leadership of Israelis and Palestinians, it will not happen. Prime Minister Netanyahu's plans for the day after the fighting in Gaza ceases remain unknown, but he rejected the American proposal to establish a government led by President Mahmoud Abbas of the Palestinian Authority, whom Hamas expelled from Gaza in 2007. The second part of the U.S. plan is to negotiate a two-state solution, which Benjamin Netanyahu has resisted since the beginning of his career. In addition to that, Mr. Netanyahu is against Palestinian independence. The support of Jewish radicals who believe that God granted the Jewish people the entire land between Jordan and the Mediterranean, which should all be inside Israel's borders, is essential to his continued tenure as prime minister. Because they hold him responsible for the security and intelligence lapses that made the October 7 attacks possible, a large number of Israelis want him replaced. Though he hasn't cast a ballot since 2005, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, who is in his late 80s, has lost the trust of prospective voters. Although it collaborates with Israel to maintain security in the West Bank, the Palestinian Authority is powerless to protect its people from armed Jewish settlers. Over time, leadership philosophies change. The only course left is more war if this terrible conflict in Gaza does not prompt Israel, Palestine, and their strong supporters to attempt again to come to a settlement. In conclusion, it is difficult to draw clear comparisons between the Gaza conflict and other Middle Eastern conflicts due to their complexity. Every conflict has a different background and set of dynamics. Thank you for watching.